Semil funkcja mi wyryptej Semil we nicht gewonnen ist. Ja, pero Max na kalendum. Ich befehl Max des nächsten. Ich bin in den Wolf so anders nächste Middle. Aus die Wand up so for the Harris before her. So. Funkcja ne Semil Peter Brew.
Hello and welcome to another episode of High School Famous, the podcast where we talk about things. I'm Matt.
I am Sean.
I feel like I'm just going to change that up every time now.
I think that you are. I don't know. Does it feel?
Do you think that I am doing it at least?
Would it feel weird to have a set, consistent, formal sort of intro? I mean,
no. I mean, I was doing it for a while there, but then I started deciding that it was like, well, we're not really. We're not gonna talk about high school, you know.
Yeah.
It's less likely that we're going to than the fact that we're actually going to.
What if we threw it out to our listeners to come up with their best intro for us, and we can decide our favorite?
Let's do that. So in about 20 or 30 episodes, maybe we'll start doing that once we start getting some feedback.
So in case you guys haven't noticed, Matt's intro is pretty terrible, and he doesn't bring any energy to it, and it really sounds like he doesn't enjoy doing this. So I think we are in search of a new. I'm not done. Mm-hmm. I think we're in search of a new intro, and we're gonna leave it up to you guys to send in your suggestions for a new intro, and you can contact us at highschoolfamous@gmail.com. or on the socials as HSFamous Pod, I think, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
I hope we don't even know at this point.
It's either HSFamous or HSFamous Pod. I imagine if you search HSFamous, we're going to come up as the top hit.
Probably.
Even if it is HSFamous Pod. But it's up to you, listeners.
Yeah. I'm going to disagree
we need a new intro
with you, though. I think it's been low energy the last couple times because I've been kind of letting it die for the fact that I'm not doing the same intro I had been doing for so long.
But you're even letting the first part you're like, hello and welcome to this week's high school. Like there's just like, I gotta do this again.
Maybe the last couple times, but I think before that I was pretty good about it.
Slightly.
Shall we start over?
Better.
Should we start over?
Yeah, let's scrap this whole. Where are we? We're 3 minutes. We're almost 4 minutes in. We're gonna scrap it. All right. Maybe hold on. Mm-hmm. Depending on how this goes, I might call off the plea for a new intro. If you
can call off the entire episode.
Yeah. If you can knock this out of the park,
welcome.
If you knock this out of the park, we might recant our outreach for a new intro.
Okay. Perfect. Here we go. Hello and welcome to High School Famous, podcast where we'll probably talk about high school, but hopefully we'll not. I'm Matt.
I'm Sean.
Was that better?
Yeah.
Should we try it again? Do you want? How about you try it?
It was different, and I noticed that you went to the old intro that we aren't necessarily doing anymore.
Because that one's the one that I had the most energy doing.
Do you think we need to have? Do you think our intro needs to be anything more than?
Hi, welcome.
Hello and welcome to High School Famous. Like, welcome to this week's High School Famous or something like that. I don't think we need to.
No, I mean, at this point, I'm getting there, thinking, do we even need to say hello? Let's just jump right into material.
Well, okay.
Like,
so are we even going to
the theme song?
What
the
theme song
title
happens. Is?
The theme song happens. The theme song says the title.
It does. It does end. It does end.
The bell
with the
goes
title
off.
in it.
Right into bad news.
So then our intro is just us yelling.
Yep, the bell goes off, then the bad news noise, and we just start talking.
Maybe the bell goes off, and then we both just go, bad news! And then the noise plays, and then it's kind of abrupt, though.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
We'll have to think about this.
Hey, welcome to High School Famous. I'm Sean. I'm one of your hosts. I'm your host, Sean. What do I say?
That's great. And I'm Matt. All right, let's start this. Let's start this thing, Sean. That was a good intro. Let's start this episode.
Yeah. All right.
Here we go.
I'm feeling good about this now.
Yeah, we just started.
Yeah.
You guys didn't hear any of that stuff that I didn't cut out.
Bad news!
Our transitions into bad news are getting worse and worse every week.
They suck.
All right, it's time for bad news.
We are really showing that we're not anywhere near like profession, like broadcast professionals, or
I hope. I honestly hope we never get professional.
Even competent level personalities. I don't think we're there yet.
Yet, I don't think we need to be there. I'm okay with never. Oh yeah, I don't. Yeah. At this point in my life, if I'm still incompetent, I'm not going to gain competency. Like, I'm at least.
Why not?
I feel like I'm at least halfway through my life at this point.
No way. Halfway through?
You never know. I could be way. Well, I could be nowhere near halfway at this point, or I could be past halfway at this point. I don't know.
Are you someone that's comfortable revealing your age, or are you someone that likes to fudge it, or you don't want people to know your age?
Oh no, I mean, I don't care. Yeah.
So we're both I guess we're both halfway to 76.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So, okay. You might be.
Yeah. I'm 25, Sean.
Yeah.
I'm a millennial. I don't know about you.
Well,
I'm just kidding. No.
Based on some sources,
no, we're not going to go there. Nope. Okay. I will 100% deny it and fight it until the day I die.
What generation do you identify with?
I don't.
Then you don't?
Nope. I'm sure as shit not a millennial.
You're not part of it. You're not. You weren't born during any of the periods that classify yep. any of the generations.
I'm whatever generation came before millennials. I don't remember which one that was. If that was Gen Zers or whatever's. But
Zers?
Gen Z or like Z, the letter Z. Gen Zers.
Zers? Gen Zers.
Gen Zers. Ooh, that's an inside joke.
ZRZ. Yeah, I think it was Gen Z. I for some reason thought. Because I remember growing up and hearing the term Generation X. Yeah. And so I always thought that that's what we were. No, and then I found out that we were after that.
Yeah. But the thing, my biggest fight against being considered a millennial is, to me, a millennial is somebody who was born in the internet generation, like born into that internet age. We came just before that internet age. As in, the internet existed just before we were born. However, it wasn't readily available and everything. We were the kind of the last generation of people who knew what it was like to grow up without the internet. So,
one thing first of all, it can't just be based on your feelings.
No, but I'm saying that's why I don't consider myself, because that's how I look at it.
Right, but you can't treat it that way.
Well, that's how I treat it.
Okay. So just because you don't want to be technically, even if you don't identify with what is commonly thought of as a millennial, even though you might technically, by the definition, based on years it spans.
If it's based just even if you primarily on the years it spans, which is the bullshit way to do it. But yeah.
Well, then what's the real way to do it?
I think it should be based more on, like,
if you're a douchebag or not.
I guess.
Like, if you act like a millennial douchebag, you're a millennial douchebag. Yeah. But if you don't,
I just think the cutoff. That cutoff is wrong.
But why? Because you don't want to be a millennial.
No, it's because of what people consider.
Because you don't want to be a millennial.
It's because what people consider a millennial to be. So if you look at the way, because millennials are more so almost categorized based on their actions and their attitude than really the period in time in which they were born. Like if you were, I mean, yeah, that's the way I look at it.
But could you say the same thing for Gen Xers, for example?
I don't know enough about that time period of what. But I'm wondering if time frame that falls in.
No, yeah, I don't know either. But I'm just wondering if that's the same mentality that the generation prior, like before Gen X, that's how they felt about.
I almost feel that
Gen X.
I almost feel that no other generation gave a shit until millennials became a thing. And everybody just hates millennials so damn much. I mean, shout out to any millennial listeners we have. We're glad to have you.
I don't know.
Bad news.
No, I think.
What? No.
Yeah, I know. We've derailed quite a bit. I'm pretty sure that we're past. Like, there's some new generation now.
Probably.
Like, the people being born now are not millennials. I think there's something else. I don't know if they have a name. I'm sure they do. But yeah, I don't know what the cutoff year is for. Not the beginning cutoff, but the end cutoff year is.
Right.
Like, if you were born in 2010, are you a millennial, or was it 2000, or was it? No,
right.
I have no idea.
So yeah, I don't know. Based on the general outlook of what a millennial's personality type is, I do not consider myself a millennial. I don't have that same mindset. So even if you're born within the whatever time period they're saying a millennial technically is, you still don't have to consider yourself to be one if you don't. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just like, just because you're born a Christian doesn't mean you have to stay a Christian. And I mean, these generations that they're calling you, it's just an arbitrary thing that they're calling you. It's not like, you know,
it is. So why worry about it? Why so harshly identify against it if it's just arbitrary?
Because
if it's arbitrary,
so many
why be
people,
like, I am definitely not a millennial.
Because so many people hold so much clout in it and hold so much like thing of like, this is what you are and stuff. It's just, I don't know, it's annoying because, I mean, millennials get a very bad name because a majority of them are just shitty, whiny, crappy people. So
yeah,
I don't associate myself with that. I'm my own shitty, whiny, crappy person, but I'm not that type.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
gotcha. So you're not necessarily saying that you're not necessarily saying you're better than a millennial. You're just different.
I'm less.
Or do you?
I'm definitely less of that type of person who thinks the world owes them a lot, and that's what a lot of millennials are. They think the world just owes them so much, and it's just like, no, the world doesn't owe you shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
That is kind of a common.
That's why I feel like
thread.
we like our age group were kind of that last group of people that kind of had to grow up.
We're the last non-millennials.
Well, we're just the last group of people that didn't have so much at our fingertips, like having everything at our fingertips. So we actually had to like try and work and do, you know, we weren't just expecting to get handouts. We had to go fucking, you know, we had to go get jobs and shit. We couldn't just sit on our computers and have a job. Like,
true,
you know, like all these people who game for a living or YouTube for a living and all that kind of stuff. It's like, we could have probably gotten there and done that if we would have like applied ourselves at that point of like, if we would have had any idea that YouTube, we could make money doing YouTube videos, I'm sure we would have been doing that shit back in the day. but we were still already at that point where we were a little bit older that we're just like, well, we have jobs and we're out of high school and we're in college and stuff. Like we're focusing on that. You know, this wouldn't be a career. Why would we focus on doing that kind of stuff? You know,
that's true. And now anyone else now, it's such like an attainable reality, like it's an actual attainable possibility to just start producing videos and make it your living. It's not this, to me, I still see it as this completely out of reach thing.
Like for instance,
for someone who's 20,
for instance,
or even in their teens.
We jump into podcasting at the age of 38, you know, where, you know, podcasting's been around for quite a while.
We started podcasting, and when we're halfway to 76, I mean, who does that?
Exactly. But, you know, now, like, all these young people can jump into this now and get so much content and, like, you know, get a following when they're young, and they don't have to, you know, they can focus a lot more attention on it because they don't have to worry about paying for a mortgage or, you know, all these different things.
I think another part of it too is, they're of a generation that the social media presence is more, it's more of their life, you know?
Right.
So they probably have a lot of like friends or followers on their platforms because that's what they all do. So it's easier to build an audience as well than it is for someone like us. Because the people we know could care less. So
exactly. It's like I've said before, and I will say again, youth is wasted on the young.
I'll write that down. That's your saying?
I don't know if that's my saying. It's something I say a lot. I have no idea.
I've never heard you say that.
You've never heard me say that? I've definitely said it before, possibly not to you, but I have said it before. I don't know why you felt you had to write it down like a sarcastic asshole, but yeah.
I really wrote it down too.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't either.
So
it's like the other day
so you can quote me later.
It's like that last time when I was writing down my own sentences for the slang.
Yeah.
There was no reason for me to do that. Bad news!
Yeah, I guess.
Should we even do it anymore? All right.
Well, I don't know. We missed it once, and we heard absolutely nobody say that they were disappointed that they missed it. So
I know. Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah, you want me to go first? I can if you want.
Sure. Since you brought it up.
So as everyone knows, I've been playing a lot of this is true. I've been playing a lot of disc golf lately. But what you don't know is why I've been playing so much. Well, this is my confession to my real intentions for all the outings. First, I wanted to start exercising my arms in a different way than I normally do. You should say arm.
Nope. Nope.
My my normal exercises are always in my bed at night and alone. With disc golf, the motions are fairly similar, but the location, time, and company is different. Well, sometimes the company is the same.
Well, what, same as in your bed?
Well, sometimes I play disc golf alone. So then it would be the same company, right?
Go ahead. Moving on.
Second, I like to keep a close eye on the burial sites. Third, it keeps me humble. I like to constantly remind myself that I'm very average at all things. I am. So I immerse myself in many tasks and hobbies that I will never be really good at. Lastly, I'm a wild boy.
Ooh.
I have this crazy, wild, edgy side that I can really let out when I hit the course. I really let the naughty words fly. I'm so crazy. Second, lastly, I have the coolest nickname. Everyone in the disc golf community knows me as Rough Rider because one of my throws are normally in the rough. Two, when I give you a ride.
Because you said, yeah, you added a word. You said one
I said because what? Oh, I see.
Let me throw some commas in here real quick while you're reading.
Yeah, this is where punctuation helps.
Yeah.
Because one, colon, my throws are normally in the rough. Two, when I give you a ride, you won't be happy. And three, I really love Teddy Roosevelt. Is he a what? Is he a Rough Rider?
Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders, dude. Google it.
Okay. I'm sure it's true.
I would hope so. It's your nickname. See, I knew you liked Teddy Roosevelt, so that's why I put that in there, figuring you actually knew that fact.
No, I know he made up that Bull Moose party when he ran against the person he had previously endorsed. So I forget his name. Taft? I think it was Taft.
Sure.
Was it Taft? Matt, was it Taft? I think it was Taft. I think he endorsed Taft, and then Taft became president, and then he discovered that Taft sucked as a president. So then he ran against him in the next election under the Bull Moose Party, and I think he won, if I'm not mistaken, which I could be mistaken.
Okay.
But not about Taft.
Good.
So either I play the same course every single time so I can keep a close eye on the burial sites, or I have a lot of burial sites at a lot of courses.
Could be.
I'm not going to specify.
Yeah,
I'm not going to incriminate myself and specify what is contained within the burial sites. Okay. But all we need to know is just that I bury a lot of things.
Right.
And I want to keep a close eye on them.
Well, I mean, you've I don't know why you're so worried about, saying anything that might, make you look bad now, considering all the times you've talked about all the things you've killed in previous episodes. I mean, you've murdered dogs and people, and
I've murdered people before in this. I thought it was just dogs.
No, you've murdered a few people. You had a victim.
Well, I mean, I forget.
Very recently in an episode, but not very recently in recording history.
I don't remember. But I
think it was the last episode that aired. Actually, you hit a guy in the head with a featureless hat and killed him. You killed some people at a swimming hole.
Oh yeah. Well, that's got. I think the statute of limitations clears me on that one.
Well, that's fine. I'm just saying you're not incriminating yourself by telling us anything that you already haven't told us. You've already told us so much that I'm not sure why you're worried about incriminating yourself now. Is all I'm saying.
No. I mean, let's say that the swimming hole or whatever thing, statute of limitations leaves me clear, right?
Sure. I mean,
I can't be charged for that.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
So even though that does, it does, mark me as someone who has killed someone before.
Right.
Saying now that I have burial sites that contain people that I have killed, it still incriminates me for those particular murders.
Can I also tell you right now that there's literally no statute of limitations on murder?
There's not?
No.
Not even if it's over property?
Not if it's over anything. There's zero statute of limitations on murder. And I'm not not just saying that for funds. for
No,
funsies in this. I mean, it's murder.
I suppose we do know of some cases where
Cold cases
someone
and
has
stuff.
gone missing for
Mhm.
several decades, and then the person is caught thereafter.
The only thing only thing I know of with murder is you can't be retried for a murder you've been acquitted of.
Acquitted for.
Like that's the only thing I know for sure. Is like, if they said nope,
And
there's
that's
no
anything.
way
That's
he's
not just-
innocent, boom, gone. Then you can't. You can only get
Yeah.
civil charges after that.
And that's not just murder. That's any crime,
I suppose.
right? Like if you're tried for
probably.
something and acquitted, they can't charge you for the same. They can't try you for the same crime again.
Right. I think unless new evidence comes up that proves something, probably. I would say, like, say you're charged for something and then forensic evidence proves that you actually did do it, but you had gotten acquitted for it. Then I don't know. I think if new evidence comes up, then it's different. You can't be, because I don't think you can be tried for the same crime with the same evidence.
Oh, is that it? Because I thought, and this could be wrong. I don't remember where I heard this, but I thought that if you were acquitted for something, you could then in the middle of the courtrooms get up and say, I did it, and you're still fine. Like that's a confession. It's new evidence.
Probably, yeah.
Technically. But again, I that could have been wrong information, because I don't think it was someone who has any professional or any law.
But even a
degree
confession,
or,
But even a confession is just a confession. It's not actual evidence. You know what I mean?
Right. That is true.
So just saying, just saying you did something doesn't prove you did it. I mean, it's foolish to admit to a crime you didn't do, but it's clearly happened in the past. I've been watching a lot of true crime documentaries lately, and one I was just watching the other day was literally all about these guys who were coerced into confessing to crimes they never committed, and then they were later after 12 years proven innocent. Where
are you on the Stephen Avery stuff? Where do you think that is?
I'm going to say right now I have no idea what you're talking about.
There was that Netflix series that was called Making a Murderer.
Oh, yeah, I never watched that.
Oh, this guy was what was it? He was imprisoned like back in the 80s or something.
Right. I'm familiar-ish with it. But yeah, I never watched it.
Yeah, he was in prison for I forget what the crime was, but then decades later it was found out, and like new evidence found out that, or supported that it wasn't him.
Right.
So then he was released. Not long after being released, someone came to their scrapyard and like to it was like a photographer or somebody that worked for like Auto Trader or something, one of those car sale websites.
Mm-hmm.
She was coming to take pictures of a car that they were going to put up for sale. Well, she ended up getting killed, and they went right to say that it was him.
Right.
And they tried him and found him guilty, and he went right back into prison. And that was back in, I think, 2005 or something, and he's been in prison ever since.
Okay.
And so basically he spent, his whole young adult life in prison. Then he was proven innocent, got released, and then turned right back around and went right back into prison. And he's been in there since.
And they're trying to see if he's actually guilty or not, or.
Well, the documentary series really, because those things will have their little message they're trying to put out, like their message they're trying to get across, or their agenda they're trying to get to. But it suggests that there's it suggests that the police just went for him without ever looking, before the investigation basically even started. They just went to pin this on him because he was about to win a lawsuit against the county or whatever for his prior imprisonment, and
which technically he should still get. He should still be able to file that even if he got sent to jail for a completely different crime.
And he might have.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have gotten that anyway, and maybe it went to his family or whatever. But so obviously, the whole thing makes it seem like the police they just went to him because they wanted to prevent this from happening. And his nephew, he was brought in for questioning, and there was no lawyer present or anything for the questioning. He was very young. I want to say he was 16 or something. And after so many, they say that if you're being interrogated, if you're there for hours and hours and hours, eventually, if you're not strong-willed enough, eventually you can just kind of say what they want you to say, just so you can get out of there.
Right.
And so they're suggesting that happened to him, and he has been in prison as well. And there was even a point where his conviction, like they basically kind of decided that he was coerced into a confession.
Right.
And so he was about to be let out, but then like the state or the county or whoever fought against it and went all the way up to the Supreme Court level and ended up getting that overturned. So he thought he was going to be getting out, but then that got shut down. It's like it's all crazy. You got to wonder how much of it is just letting what really happened dictate what happens versus how much of it is we don't want to make it look like we messed up.
Right.
So this guy's been found guilty for this. So no matter what happens, we're keeping this as he is guilty.
Right.
To save face or to, I don't know. It makes it look like things are like horrendously corrupt.
Yeah.
And,
you should watch The Confession Killer. That one's, it's very that same kind of thing of the cops just like, well, like basically this guy starts confessing to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of murders. So all these different jurisdictions are coming in and like saying like, oh, did you commit this murder? And he'd basically be like, yep. And like they'd be like, oh, well, how would, like, they'd show him like stuff. And then so he basically had kind of almost like a photographic memory. Like he would just look at all this shit and then he would just make up a story about this is what I did. This is how I did it. Blah, blah, blah. And just confessed to like 200 and something murders. And then later told some interview guys, like, I'm just making all this shit up. Like, I didn't actually do any of this. He just basically wanted the attention and like all this stuff. And so even after he's finally said like, yeah, no, I actually didn't really do this. And they're starting to actually prove, well, he couldn't have killed this person and this person because they're 2,000 miles apart. And it was like this much time difference. They like did a thing. They did a thing showing like this person died this day, this day, all over the country and showing how he would have had to drive and travel all that distance in that amount of time.
Yeah.
And they said he would have had to been driving 50 miles an hour nonstop with no sleep, no stops for gas, all this stuff for a month straight to be able to kill all these people.
Wow.
So they're just like, nothing's adding up. So finally they're like, well, it's obvious that he's bullshitting and he didn't actually kill any of these people. And the cops still were just like, well, come back over and confess to more murders. And he's like, okay. And he just kept having him confess to more murders and closing more cases. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You got to watch it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But even if that didn't end up that way, couldn't he be charged with like impeding on an investigation or whatever? Like
they didn't give a shit about any of that because they were closing all these cases and these cops were just looking like crazy heroes.
They're looking great, right?
Yep. Yeah. They were just looking at me like they got the world's the biggest serial killer the world has ever known. He's killed hundreds and hundreds of people over an 8-year period. Like he would have been killing somebody, like literally the amount of that he had confessed to, he'd have been killing somebody like at least once a week. He'd have been killing somebody. And like he was even confessing to like, oh, this is how I killed that person. And then they find out later, well, no, that's not how that person died at all. Like he was saying, like he would constantly talk about how he would kill somebody and then have sex with their body and all this stuff. And like one woman was decapitated and he said like, oh, I cut her head off and then had sex with her because that's the only way I can do. I have to cut their heads off. Well, that was the only person of anybody that had had their head cut off. So it's like, well, that doesn't add up. And it was just like all this stuff that just wasn't adding up. And then they actually finally, the first time they actually realized that he was full of shit was this homicide detective woman went and talked to him about these murders that he had kind of confessed to in her area. So she went and talked to him about it. And then she was like, it's not adding up. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not adding up. So she went back and talked to her supervisor, and her supervisor was like, okay, just put together a fake murder. Just like make it up, take pictures from several different crime scenes, shove them together, make up a whole story about where this person was found, all this different stuff, and bring it and see if he confesses to it. She brought it, showed him all the stuff. Yep, that was one of mine. And then told her the whole story of how it happened. So it was just like, it was just ridiculous.
This guy just wanted the attention for it.
Basically, yeah. So there was somebody he actually did kill that he felt bad for. And so he was trying to commit judicial suicide. He was trying to get the death penalty, because if he got the death penalty, he could still go to heaven. But if he took his own life, he wouldn't get to go to heaven. That was his thought process behind it. So he was trying to have the state kill him so that he could still go to heaven, because he felt bad and wanted to die.
I'm pretty sure if you murder somebody, you don't get into heaven.
I mean,
no matter how you feel about it afterward. I mean, if you confess to your, I mean, I don't know what version or whatever of maybe Christianity that might be, where you confess to your sins and then therefore you're cleared. And
it's all about if you get absolved by your priest or pastor or reverend or whoever, if they absolve you of your sins, basically, if they tell you that God or Jesus has okayed what you've done and given you forgiveness for what you've done, because God or Jesus only talks to them, and passes down the judgment to the priest, and then allows the priest to then tell the person, yes, you're okay. You say your Hail Marys and whatever else you need to say or do, and you're absolved of your sins. And it's like, okay.
What's the process
it's
to
weird.
be? How does one become a priest? I don't know this. Are you sort of like almost in a way elected by your church to be the priest of the church? Or
I think it's something like that. Because you have to, you obviously have to dedicate
study for it.
You have to dedicate
basically?
your life to it, and everything. And then, I'm not sure exactly what gets you to that point of priesthood, because it's not something you go to college for. I don't think so. Because
you would think that they were all chosen, right? They're all chosen by God.
You'd think
to
so.
be the recipients of these messages of, well, okay, fine.
I mean,
this person's sorry.
I'm not going to lie.
They can come.
In their mind, that's probably exactly how it goes down. It's like they followed this path in life because that was the path.
Because
God
they were
chose
chosen
them to go down. So, in a way,
that makes sense.
It's ridiculous.
Perception's reality, I've heard, right?
Right.
So if that's their perception, that's their reality of it.
And I mean, I don't want to shit on anybody's beliefs, because you believe what you believe. As long as you're a decent person, I don't care what you believe in.
Right. And
it's whatever keeps you to be a decent person throughout the day and life, I should say, not just throughout the day, throughout your entire life. As long as you're a decent person, whatever you follow is more power to you. As long as you're not trying to push what you believe onto me and we can get along, I'm cool with it. Whatever. I grew up in a Catholic household, and we slowly all chose our own directions of what we believed in after that. So,
and I didn't grow up with anything,
right?
So,
and you're a heathen.
Any questions? Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've got multiple burial sites, and
right.
I show no discrimination when it comes to murder. It's just animal and human alike. But any questions I ask is just out of ignorance and curiosity.
Right. And I have a limited knowledge of stuff just from what I can recall throughout my existence of ducking and diving and dodging out of religion.
My dad would just pick random times and moments to sort of display a level of Catholicism.
Oh yeah.
Out of nowhere. It was nothing consistent, or
right.
It wasn't like, at least me, I didn't grow up knowing this about him, but every once in a while it'd be like, well, the funniest thing about him too is super into those like nature shows where they'll show a little bug, they'll just any kind of show that tells a story about some kind of animal somewhere, and like the interplay between, well, this animal does this and then it affects this plant this way, and then this animal is then able to do this, and so the whole like kind of like circle of life and how it's all a cohesive thing. You would almost think that someone that's into that kind of thing is more interested in the science behind it.
Right.
But he would always just go to, and just to think that God just made all of this. But,
Yeah.
All right. Hey, your news. It's time for your news.
It's ridiculous. I know. I was wondering if we were ever going to get to it. I mean,
hey,
this, well,
We went on some tangents.
Fun for the listeners on this episode. This is going to be a news-only episode at this point.
It might be. But, you know, we went on the tangent of like wrongful convictions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've been taking notes.
Okay. Hey, Matt, what have you been up to lately?
So I haven't had a TV in years. I love it.
This kind of goes against what... Hold on. This goes against what all we talked about. You were talking about how you're just watching all of this stuff. Confession killers and stuff like that.
So I think it's good.
Anyway.
Sometimes it's good to have your news read first.
So let's go on with the ride that you don't have it. Let's go along with the ride that you don't have a TV.
There's so many ways that I could be watching all this stuff, not necessarily on a TV.
It's true. I love the people that go on about how they don't have a TV, but then they like have series of shows on DVD, for example, or they watch stuff on their phone. It's like, well, okay.
Like,
you're not watching on a television.
Own a television. I'm sorry, I don't own a television.
I am a television.
Like, great, you're so awesome. Thank you.
You're one of these.
I don't eat meat.
So you're one of. So you're one of these people now. About TV. Go ahead.
Here we go. Yeah. So
you millennial, you.
Yeah. So I haven't had a TV in years because I'm awesome. I love it because it has enriched my so-called life in so many ways. For one, I rediscovered how much a family matters. I grew up in a full house, but traveled all the way to ER for school each day. It was tough being away, but I took it step by step. And in the end, it really helped me blossom and get smart. I also made some lifelong friends. Some might say an entourage. Having no TV has allowed me more time to reflect on how many happy days, whether it's How I Met Your Mother, playing The Flood is Lava as a kid, The Floor is Lava as a kid, enjoying some chips, taking a taxi to watch a Smash musical play, live in New York on Saturday night. I can't
live from New York.
Yeah, whatever. I didn't read properly.
You said live in New York.
Well, it's the same fucking word.
Yeah, but from and in are very different.
Live from. We'll just not cut that out. I can't help but smile at all the good times. So whether you're experiencing growing pains, a teen mom, considering parenthood, or already married with children, it's important to set aside some adventure time. Because life is meant to be lived, not lost in the sea of television shows. Our time on the third rock from the sun is precious and fleeting, and could be gone in a flash. Another important lesson I've learned is whoever wears the crown isn't necessarily who's the boss. Once you figure that out, you'll find yourself in what I like to call the good place. So cheers to no TV. So yeah, it's a bunch of TV show titles. What else can I really go on with this?
So yeah, you're declaring your love of independence from TV, but the only way you can describe your life is
through
using a bunch of television show titles.
It just so happens. Just because those are all television show titles doesn't mean this isn't like properly worded little thing I've talked about. It all makes sense. It's just a coincidence.
It's odd that you capitalized all the parts that were television show titles, though.
Well, that's
if you weren't referring to actual television show titles, and these are just the words you happen to be using to describe your life.
I think I've proven in the fact that when I wrote yours, I left out a bunch of punctuation that I don't know what I'm doing.
So you just
I'm arbitrarily just capitalizing whatever I want.
Maybe you're trying to overcorrect here by. I think the word chips is usually capitalized, right? In a sentence?
Right.
I like how that's an enriching part of your life is
enjoying some chips.
Man, if I had a TV, I doubt I'd be enjoying all these chips I've been enjoying.
Yeah, no, if I don't eat chips in front of a television, it's just sad. Like if I'm just sitting like at my desk facing a wall and eating chips, like that's really pathetic.
But no, you're talking about eating chips while not watching TV, and that's good.
Oh, yeah.
Like this is one of the benefits of your life for not owning a television.
Right.
Enjoying chips.
Right.
Which happened to be
so flip it then. What I really meant was if you're not watching something while eating chips, like if you're just sitting there watching TV, you're just mindlessly shoving chips into your mouth, not really even paying attention to the flavor or anything. if you're just sitting and enjoying a bowl of chips, where your full mind and body is focused on that bowl of chips, you can just sit there and really like enjoy the nuanced flavors of the chip and really like appreciate like the craftsmanship that went into making that chip. You know, you really just kind of you can immerse yourself in it. You're not just mindlessly shoving them into your mouth while watching something stupid on the television.
Do you know that chips started off? I'm talking about potato chips, not the show chips.
Mm-hmm.
Were like a gourmet sort of. It was a side that was like served in fancy restaurants when they were first invented.
That makes sense.
It's true. And now they're like just common slobby junk food.
Right.
But they used to be considered kind of a hoity-toity
I also think
indulgence.
I also like. I also wish we would adopt the English version of chips and call them crisps, because it's just like that better.
Crisps is good.
Crisp is great.
I mean,
I think it's great. I don't think chips works good for French fries, but French fries is also a weird, nonsense name for.
See, I thought that's
those
where you were
anyways.
I thought that's where you were going. Was you were hoping that we would call fries chips?
No, because it doesn't make sense. Because I don't know. I guess because in our brains, chips make sense as what chips are, so they're like a crispy, thin thing. So calling a French fry a chip is weird going backwards that way to us. But crisp still makes sense for changing chips to crisps. You know, because it's like, oh yeah, they're crispy. There's a lot of things that England does that I think would be cool, and then a lot of things they do that I'm just like, no, we can steer clear of that.
Well,
so
there are a lot of things that not just England do,
even the U.S.
But no, like no. I mean, I think we need to adopt the metric system.
Agreed.
Already. Agreed. I mean, for crying out loud.
Agreed. I mean, not that I'm actively like learning it or using it myself, but I also agree that we should be learning it. We're one of like 3 countries in the world that doesn't use the metric system.
Well, the thing is, there's not a whole lot to learn, really.
Right. It's just getting the since our brains are wrapped around. It would basically just
be getting out of the habit of using the system we use, which I don't even remember what it's called.
I think it's called the standard system, which is it's the the imperial system
with feet and miles and pounds and
it's the imperial system. And yeah, it's mainly the biggest thing is just learning, because I mean you kind of have an idea in your head of like, okay, a foot is about this much. Like you can kind of gauge in distance if somebody says, oh, it's 5 feet away. You just have to learn.
Right. We'll have to
how
learn
long
that.
is a meter and stuff like that. That would be the biggest thing. Learning how to use the metric system is actually going to be way easier because everything's just in tens. It's just tens. So it's.
I think the hardest.
Simpler.
I think probably the most potentially dangerous and risky aspect of it would be switching from miles per hour to kilometers per hour.
Right, but your car car already shows both.
Yes, but
so it's not like you're going to suddenly be like, whoa, and you're just going to start flying down the road. If anything, you'll be driving too slow because
I was going to say, I don't know what the conversion rate is.
Yeah, because kilometers per hour is going to be higher than miles per hour. So whatever 140 kilometers per hour is less than 140 miles per hour.
That's going to be easier for anyone that has like an actual speedometer dial, which is in the car. Or if you have just a digital display of your speed, and those aren't going to by default show both.
Right, but I believe that they'll most likely there's a setting you can change.
I'm sure. Yeah. Right.
And the thing is, I mean, it's probably still about a 50-50 split, probably not quite that much of cars that are going to have a regular speedometer versus a digital speedometer. I guess we can call it an analog speedometer.
Yeah. A mechanical speedometer?
Right.
Mine's mechanical or analog.
Yeah, mine's analog.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably not the way, it's probably not the real way to refer to it, but
it's a standard speedometer.
Yeah. It's probably not the real way to call it analog.
That was bad news, everyone.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. I don't know if we've ever gone 50-something minutes and just gotten past the bad news.
No.
Now, granted, we went on a couple of crazy tangents.
There was a bit of fluff at the beginning about the intro, and we really kind of,
Well, it's funny too because we came. I guess I don't know. I don't want to say we came into this episode prepared, but we at least had a mild idea of what we were intending to talk about today.
Yeah.
And now I don't know if we can really get to it. But so yeah,
Well-
I mean this episode is going to be released. If you're listening to it, you already know it's April 1st. And we kind of shot ourselves in the foot. So if you guys are
Yeah.
listening to this realizing they didn't release anything on Tuesday, it's because we kind of screwed ourselves over and released too many episodes in March. So we ran out of space on our
hosting site.
on our hosting site. So we had to kind of make a decision to wait and release later.
We would have had to have paid extra to release
and
a Tuesday episode.
We just kind of figured, I mean, we could have done that, but we made the decision that it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't that important to get the episode released on Tuesday.
Because we were naturally going to be, so we're all caught up on episodes now.
Yeah. So
this is the week we naturally would have had one episode for the whole week anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it just kind of worked out. So this is our April Fool's Day episode.
Yeah, that has no.
But right now it's got nothing. I mean,
nothing.
Well, there's that sweet modification of the theme song, which I'm sure has blown everyone away.
Oh, I'm glad you reminded me of that because I probably would have just put the regular theme song at the beginning.
Nope. Don't ruin this for me.
That would have been funny. Now I almost feel like I want to.
No, because I sent you the thing. I sent.
You sent me something.
I sent. Okay.
I don't know what you sent me.
Yeah.
Well, they'll have already heard it at this point.
They'll have heard it by now, unless you don't put it on the episode and you just do the regular theme song.
So much
then I sound like an idiot.
There's so much I could do right now.
So
this could become. This could just turn into me April Fool's pranking you.
You could be doing that, and just I'll be expecting the special theme song, and it'll just be the regular theme song, and I'll be angry because I kind of think it's fun. And the funny thing is, I guess it's not funny.
Okay. The funny thing is that it's not funny.
Well, because I'll be able to listen to it technically before anyone else. So I was going to say in real time, if you're listening to this, before I do what version of the song it is.
Not necessarily. It depends on when I post it to release it.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Because I will have all the power.
Well, what do you want to do? So I came up with. I don't think unless we want to go for a long time.
I mean,
we don't.
Yeah.
But I came up with a little thing to do at the end we could try, which it's a tongue twister.
Like for this specific episode or going forward?
I mean, it was nothing. It wasn't necessarily specific to this episode. But it's. I thought about trying to come up with fun tongue twisters to have you try to say.
Okay.
Or us try to say.
Like you're making these up or you're finding them?
Well, I would plan on making them up. The one that I have now, I originally was thinking of it for your news somehow. That was my original idea, but I didn't know where else to take it. So it's just a modification of a classic tongue twister.
Ooh.
So the tongue twister, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, right?
Right.
So I thought of a version where Peppermint Patty is talking to Charlie Brown about this.
Okay.
And if you remember anything about those two characters, Peppermint Patty refers to Charlie Brown as Chuck.
Right.
So it adds another Chuck in the mix.
Okay.
And so I did do so here's what everyone knows. I think everyone knows. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Right. But then there's the second part, which I didn't do anything to, but the second part is he chuck as much wood as a woodchuck could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
Right.
Right. So my version says, as Peppermint Patty once asked Charlie Brown, Chuck, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, Chuck? And beyond that, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck that could chuck would chuck wood, Chuck? So I have it. It's up on the shared. There's a folder called Tongue Twisters, and it's the document in there. So I want to see how well you do with it. I've obviously had a little bit of time to practice, but
right. Well, and you also wrote it.
Chuck, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood, Chuck? And how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck that could chuck wood, Chuck? I
mean, I've also proven that I'm really bad at just reading in general. So
That's why I think this could be fun.
Be really interesting. So do I need to do the whole part like ask Peppermint Patty once asked Charlie Brown?
No, so I typed that part when it was going to be part of your news. So
okay.
I think, yeah, that part can go away. It also just helps explain the reason for the extra Chuck.
So, all right. So, Chuck, how much wood could okay. This damn delay. I start and then you ask me to go. Chuck, how much wood could
start whenever you're going to start.
Chuck, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood chuck? And beyond that, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood chuck? If a woodchuck that could chuck wood woodchuck would chuck. If a woodchuck that could chuck wood woodchuck would chuck. Gotcha.
So that was slow.
It was, well, I mean,
how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood chuck?
Okay, you've probably been
how much wood and how much wood would a chuck? How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could? Oh crap!
See, now you.
See, I'm not looking at.
Oh, because you're trying to do it based on memory.
Okay. I'm trying to do it out from memory. Chuck, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood chuck? And beyond that, Chuck, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck that could chuck wood woodchuck would chuck?
I think you got it mostly right.
I had a long drive home from the disc golf course today.
Were you practicing that the entire time?
I know. No, I said it like 4 times in the car.
So still, you criticized me for doing it slowly the one time I attempted it. And you've been practicing for a little while. And you also created it.
So to be fair, the first time I tried it, I was much faster. But again, I did write it.
You were also creating it. Yeah, you also knew you were trying to go with it.
Yep. So I already had the rhythm in my head and everything, and I knew what words were coming up next.
All right. So
do you think, are you someone that would you enjoy trying to come up with tongue twisters?
I could try it. And we'll see if I can come up with something, because obviously I would like to try to really mess with you.
Trip me up?
Yeah. I
wonder how much.
I'll try it once and see what I can come up with. I'll try to see if I can get one put together for next week.
I wonder how much of our podcast is going to be just pre-written things that we're.
I know, that's what we're getting to the
reading.
Point of. Is we're just going to continuously that's the whole podcast is us just trying to screw each other up the whole time, just making each other read stuff. See, so I was because we were talking about
guess things.
Yeah, because we were talking about doing redoing the one where we have a bunch of questions that we write answers for
about
each
the other
other.
person, right?
Yeah. So I was also thinking like what we do then, instead of me reading what I wrote for you, basically then I would give you your answers and then we would read our answers, but the other person had wrote, but as our answers.
As their answers.
Very Impractical Jokers like at that point. But
I feel like our news is along that line too, where we wrote the crazy thing is our news has been written for each other,
right?
That kind of thing. So I don't know. It could be.
Who knows? We obviously enjoy writing dumb shit. So it's basically what we've been doing for so many years.
It's all I have.
We've been writing together for a long time. We've been, we used to just write dumb ass stories in a particular place of higher learning. I'm not going to mention what it was because we don't talk about that on this podcast.
It's not higher learning. That's not higher learning.
Well, okay, a place of moderate learning,
basic required learning,
ground level learning.
Base employment required learning.
Sea level learning.
Yeah. You mean sea level?
Like be slightly above sea level learning.
Oh, so not sea level. You weren't referring to where the water meets the land.
That's what I was learning. That's what I was referring to.
Okay.
Not like grade wise sea level.
But then you say D level. So what's that mean? Oh, I know. But that varies per dude.
Yeah.
What their D level is.
Right. How do you measure a D level?
I don't know, but
is D level measured from the body out or the ground up?
Well, it has to be body out because ground up is also varied per person.
Right. But even body out is going to vary it's not only going to vary per person, it's going to vary on each person specifically as well. So
the funny
depending on my mood, my D level can change.
That right? Also, what we've learned from a famous television show is the temperature. The temperature also can greatly affect your D level, and so.
Why does this always happen at the end of an episode where we have this
weird,
ridiculous talking about D levels?
C level is C is considered average, right? C is average.
Are we talking about SEA, or are we talking about maybe a woman's C level?
What does that mean?
I don't know. We're talking about guys' D levels. I think we could be talking about women's C levels.
We don't use that word.
Oh, sorry, they're V levels.
we don't use C level.
They're all
on this podcast.
All of these letters. All these letters are all rhyming letters.
I know, right? So, but in terms of grades, A, B, C, D, and F.
Okay.
C is average, right?
Yeah.
C is what's considered average.
Yep.
Academically. So D is considered below average.
Okay.
But when referring to a man's D level, you could have an above average, below average.
An above average, below average?
Because if D is below average
right.
in an academic term.
Well, okay.
But
so
your D level is above average compared to other males.
I
this
appreciate
is hypothetical.
That. Oh, okay.
This is completely hypothetical. Then your below average would be above average.
I mean, yeah, if you're looking at it in that way, which is a really weird way to look at it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
This is what Matt. This is what we do.
This is what you do, but yeah.
We look at Well, thank you. But no, Matt. We both look at things in a sort of off kilter way and put a weird spin on.
Yeah, I mean,
life,
we're currently talking about men's D levels.
Right.
Oh my god! And I'm trying to remember how we got here.
I don't either. But if any listener wants to contact us and let us know where they think we fall with our D levels, I'd be interested to know.
There's potentially listeners that already know where we fall on D levels. Depending on who's listening.
Well, I was going to say, there's probably not a single listener that knows where both of us fall.
Oh, yeah. I would.
So there's no one that really knows.
Yeah, not one single person would be able to tell us both, yes.
And Matt, you can trust me, I'm being honest here.
What?
Trust me.
Trust you?
Trust me.
That nobody...
Yeah, there's nobody... Yeah, trust me. There's no one that knows your D level and also mine. Just letting you know.
Okay.
You don't need to... Yeah, nothing to worry about there.
No investigation needed.
None. Don't ask any questions. You don't have to. It's all good.
Cool. That makes me feel confident.
That's what I'm going for.
Confidence? Or you're trying to wobble my confidence?
If I'm trying to wobble anything, it's your D level.
Well, that just made you look weird.
It made me sound weird to everyone else.
Right.
Bye.
Yeah, I lost
this
our
has
track
been
of
another
thought.
one of this has been another one of these.
I feel like before the D level thing, we were going somewhere and it just went off the rails. And I honestly can't remember what we were talking about. But hey,
we were talking.
This episode went absolutely nowhere.
I think. Well, I don't know, because you said something about higher learning, and I said that's not higher learning, and then we went into how it's base level learning, and you said C level learning, and so I think that's how we got into all that mess. But I don't know I don't remember what you were talking about that got you to say higher level learning that we're not going to talk about on here.
Yeah, no, I'll find out here in a minute when I go back to listen.
Yeah.
But until then, we might have to discuss it on a later episode because I'm lost now.
This has been very tangenty.
This entire episode had no point.
Yeah.
I don't think we made a single point. All right.
April Fools.
That doesn't apply.
If you like us, we're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as HSFamousPod. Email us at highschoolfamous@gmail.com. If you really love us, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/highschoolfamous. Remember, We love you and want to have your babies.